Workers, did an employee get fired and decided to take revenge on the boss? We weren't the biggest company around, but we had the biggest growth in the last couple of years. That is all due to the motivated and brilliant individuals being hired. I always thought our department did a wonderful job because of this. Anyway, we were trying to improve our technological infrastructure, so a couple of guys were hired in order to work on the project. The idea was truly something else, and if we would have managed to succeed, we would have jumped far ahead of our competition. So, our boss really focused on this project, and to get it right, everyone has been told that it is going to take about 6 months until everything is up and running. The main key staff was the department, and we should assist with whatever we can. Halfway through those 6 months and we already made huge progress. We were doing so well that we actually managed to go over our target easily. As a token of appreciation for our hard work, our boss threw a company party for us. He said that small victories should be celebrated, and even if we are not there yet, we are well within our target, and this will be the great opportunity to relax until we get back to all the hard work. In other words, we deserved it. Employees' family members were also invited, so many colleagues came with their wives, including our boss. There was good food, and then there were drinks and decent music. It felt like back in high school. Everybody was having a good time, maybe some more than others. I was waiting at the bar, sitting in one of the corners, waiting to get a drink. Across the other side of the bar I can see the guy from the department who was hired a few months ago to be in charge of this new project. Next to him it was the boss wife. At first glance, that seemed really strange, but I was thinking they are just having a conversation until they're waiting for the bartender. Then things got a bit more interesting. There were a lot of laughs and subtle touches on the arm. They both looked at each other like they wanted to be in another place by themselves. You can sense the tension between them. Good thing I was sitting quite far, so they didn't really notice me, but it still made me feel uncomfortable. Next thing I know, from the other side of the dance floor here comes the boss/husband rushing to the bar. As a man, you tend to notice when somebody else fancies your women, so it's only natural to take charge. My boss approached his wife and firmly grabbed her by the arm. They then disappeared from the party without even saying goodbye. Some time ago there were some stories going around the office that the wife cheated on him, but he forgave her. However, you can never know with this office gossip. The following week we had an unexpected meeting with the boss. He then communicated to us that the guy in charge of the project was fired due to unforeseen circumstances. Everybody was shocked, but I could have seen that coming. I was expecting that he would keep him around until the end, but I guess my boss couldn't kept thinking about the whole situation at the bar. Ego is a really powerful thing. He then went on saying that we shouldn't have a problem hiring someone new to continue with the project. However, our department couldn't find anyone in that short period of time, so we lost a good chunk of time, which meant that there is no way we can finish the project on time. So, unfortunately, the ambitious project was abandoned. Many months later, we found about a company in the same industry as us who developed this brilliant technology. It was basically a main concept with just a few tweaks. I have then checked to see who was in charge of the project, and surprise, it was the guy that got fired because he was flirting with the boss wife. Weeks after that, my boss received a letter saying only, "Told you that you are going to regret your decision." I was thinking that this guy really took it far. Because of failure to deliver the project, and because the idea was stolen as revenge, the competition outrun us. We had to cut the budget and fire a few people. Fortunately enough, I was promoted because I was loyal to the company. I guess the morale is either to marry the right woman or not to mess with the guy. The company I was working in was planning to do a merge with another in the field for several months now. My department was big, and we were told from the beginning that a part of us would most likely be fired, and a small part would maybe be promoted. Everybody started working extra, and tried to assure their place in the future company, as it was a good job considering most of the 9 to 5s. And we would all do that, especially since everybody could tell more or less accurately which path will be chosen for most of us. Jeff was doing his job really well and fast, and everyone started seeing a threat in him as everyone believed he was going to be promoted. Curiously though, Jeff was not putting in the extra work, and on top of that, one could say his dedication in the workplace had even dropped. We later found out this had to do with a personal matter, something about a family member being seriously ill. Nonetheless, his productivity dropped drastically, and so when time finally came to find out the new changes, I had luckily kept my job, but Jeff was fired. The office quickly split in a few sides. Some said they were shocked and had expected that his good skills would weigh more than a rough patch. Some said he deserved it and had it coming, and some even said that he should have been promoted. But none of this mattered, as we later found out that the decisions made weren't taken by the bigger positions in the company, as everyone thought, but by our department's boss and team leader, which was a dreadful person. Only then the whole department agreed that the decision wasn't a humane one, as everyone knew that our boss had only done this from lack of empathy and understanding towards Jeff's problem. Jeff was devastated. This was truly the last thing he needed on his plate, and had left the office in a dramatic fight with our boss, saying over and over that he did not deserve this, and that we will hear from you again. A few months go by, and I'm reading the local news on the bus I take to commute to work and back home. I could say I was shocked, rather than surprised, as I was reading a headline that implied a really serious lawsuit against our boss for abuse of power and breach of conduct. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I had been working in the company for quite some time now, and had never encountered a situation like that. The article stated that the lawsuit was filed by more than half of the members of the department. I later found out that this information was completely true, and that nobody said anything because they wanted to keep their jobs. Evidently, the mastermind behind all this was Jeff, which has now managed to solve his personal problems and begun focusing on getting his job back and, of course, getting revenge over his former boss. He managed to do that with flying colors, as our boss was firstly suspended and then fired for good when it was proven in court that the accusations were true. The company stated a public apology and claimed they had no idea this situation was taking place in their company. Moreover, in order to prove this, they offered Jeff, of all people, the open place in the company and gave him a raise. Nicely played, Jeff. Little did we know he was going to be one of the best bosses we could have asked for. Had an employee who was sneaking out from the office. Everyone on the floor thought he was cheating, as he told the secretary that if his wife calls to tell her he's in a meeting. Also, that occurred quite regularly, at the same hour on the same days. It was getting kind of obvious, but nobody said anything, because it wasn't our job to interfere. One time he sneaked out and forgot about some important meeting. Funny enough, that time he should have been in a meeting if the wife called. It was a meeting with the shareholders, and it was important for all of us to be there, so we would send a positive message that we stand and work as a team. Our boss was really nervous about this meeting and prepared for it for a while now. 5 minutes before starting the meeting, the boss noticed that someone was missing. Our sneaky colleague had done it again, and now it was the worst timing ever. In my mind, I was thinking back, quote, did he do it on purpose? There is no way he could have forgotten. Maybe he just didn't care enough. Anyway, we proceeded with our stuff regardless. Halfway through the meeting he knocks at the door and comes through, apologizing for showing up like this. His face was all red, and he was sweating. You could see the shareholders getting uncomfortable. Those were same veterans that really appreciated professionalism in a working environment. So, this wasn't the best example to show them. My guess was that the secretary called him and told him that he's going to be in some trouble if he doesn't show up. But I guess it was too late for that anyway. After the meeting, the sneaky colleague was called into the boss office. Minutes later I could see him gathering his stuff. This was a competitive working environment, and he was out. The following day, the wife calls the office and goes on a rant about why her husband had been fired because she can't see any clear reason from what she's been told by him. The boss told her the truth about how he disappeared from the office regularly. The boss was also angry with the wife's attitude, so she told everything that she needs to know about the gossip going. After he was gone, I had to pick up his workload until we found another person. That wasn't as fun as seeing him getting fired. However, the truly interesting thing comes only months after, when our boss told us what happened after that incident. Our department went out for dinner, and after a few drinks we got talking. Our boss told us that the ex-employee tried to frame him as he would cheat on his wife. He kept sending love cards to his house with romantic messages, like they were written by a mistress, as well as sending out spiced texts with the hope the wife would read them. Also, he kept calling in the middle of the night to give out the impression that an affair was happening. His wife started suspecting something, so they got into a big fight. He told us they stayed separated for a few months, but then talked things through, and he explained the situation in detail. They were married for 16 years, so it would have been a shame to see everything go just like that. Nevertheless, now it explains why for the last couple of months our boss was so harsh on us. Thank God it's all over now. I was working in a small developers company when some new colleagues were hired in our department. They were young, some freshly out of college, and were brought to the company, not just because we needed the extra hands, but also for a modern view towards our company's services along with other such things. I got along really good really fast with Rob, a young programmer that had really good entrepreneur skills which started showing ever since the first team meeting. But Rob was also a really attractive guy, and somehow, out of all the women out there, he put his eyes, ironically, on the team leader's young daughter. There was nothing wrong about it, as his daughter was already in college, studying the same course Rob had taken, but her father would not allow it nonetheless. It came of no surprise that Rob would soon after get fired, ending his career in our company after just a few months of employment. But apparently those few months were all he needed to have in order to understand and use all the business aces up its sleeve in order to guarantee success. He was a smart young man, and we actually remained friends even after his scandal within the company. His relationship with his former boss daughter didn't last very long, and soon after they broke up, he had his mind set to getting revenge for being fired for such a shallow and selfish motive. So, he developed a company. And not any type of company, he developed a rival on the market for us, and, surprisingly, he had it going well ever since he started it. Of course, the fact that he knew most of our marketing secrets gave him a huge advantage over us, and in 1 year time he managed to get to the same level with our company, which was on the market for several years now. Our boss was furious, and rightfully so, and Rob had promised me this was only the beginning. He kept his promise, as another year later, the president of the company gave an announcement stating that the whole business is being bought by the other one, which had, by the time all this happened, gotten a lot bigger than us. I say my department's boss jaw drop, as he knew this other company was Rob's. So, I guess resent can be a really powerful and driving feeling, as Rob managed to do so much and become so successful just because he sought revenge over his former boss. Joke's on him, as now Rob is his boss, and it came of no surprise that the first thing he did was fire him. He gave me his job instead, as I appreciated really much, but he assured me he did not do it because we were friends, but because he really considered me fit for the job and a person able to get the company further up in the success rate. After all, Rob even got back together with his ex, but I told him I don't know if that's a wise choice considering his differences with her father. He laughed and said that now he is the one that is expecting to be impressed, as he's sure her father wants his job back. He assured me that he wouldn't give him his job as a team leader, but joked and said that he's thinking about giving him a job in the company nonetheless, but at the lowest hierarchy point he could find, and that he would watch with great satisfaction his struggle to get to the top. We laughed about it, but then Rob told me in a serious manner that he would never treat his employees with injustice, whoever it may be.